Hello and welcome to today's episode of Awak. I'm your host Bano.
And I'm your host Dunia.
Nari nari, nari min gemelu, nari nari, elbi de garalo. Habibi da. I love this. We just have been on a ride throughout nostalgia through music. We visited,
Truly.
I don't know how many artists we have been visiting. Crazy shit.
Yes, because it all started with you having to host a Eid party.
Yeah, actually that's true.
Yeah, and we had to make like a whole Middle Eastern playlist because, you know, Eid and homage, we wanted to have those songs. And I just fell into this rabbit hole of old music, which I haven't heard for a while. And, you know, even though I couldn't recognize the names or the title, when I hit play, it was like all the words just came back to my mind.
Also the memories. I think like memories of us, like which times of our lives we were listening to and all the feelings. I think like there's so much we know from science that memories and emotions are connected to each other. So you save stuff based on the emotion you had. And, you know, both very good memories and very bad memories get saved with that certain event. So like the music really does bring back these emotions.
It really does. And most of them, because I found old songs. So most of them, I got flashbacks to like my birthdays as a child. And I think that was the beautiful part. And I sometimes think back to maybe that is why I still feel very connected to my culture, is because when I had a birthday, we weren't playing Britney Spears. We weren't playing, you know, any of the artists that were in. It was Arabic music, which is
so
funny
true.
because I'm not even Arabic.
But the Middle East had like definitely its print on our lives. And I think it's been actually a long time, Dunia, since I listened to Arabic music. I don't know when last time I listened. Maybe it's like 15 years ago or a longer time. It's like from that time when I stopped watching NBC, no more music was shown. But I honestly think that life changed. You know, now we have Spotify. We don't use the TV anymore. We don't sit around the TV anymore and watch NBC or shows. We have Netflix. We have all of these other things. So like that nostalgia that comes with the music and the shows from before, that ain't happening anymore. Like you said, like last time we watched Bab el Hara, it's eons ago.
Oh, Bab el Hara.
Dunya knows all the songs by heart.
I know.
Even the guy that's selling food.
He was selling Balila. And even that song, it's imprinted in my mind.
Dunya, give us a little go at this.
Do you want to hear the Balila
I would
song?
love to. I loved it.
Balila. You're not even taking it serious anymore. I cannot.
What was it? I have Andi Lira. No.
It was Balila Balbaluki وبالليل سرقوكي وبالنهار قتلوكي يا عزيز ألف ليرة إنجليز. Which, looking back at it, this is a very aggressive sales speech.
It's like
وبالليل سرقوكي وبالنهار قتلوكي, which means like
Balila.
Balila is like a bean.
Is it?
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, that's true. I think when I heard that song, I actually didn't know if they're talking about the bean or if they're talking about a person.
Right.
But they do personificate a lot of stuff. It's the art. I think that's a very nice art. Last time I heard something like that was when we were in Tanzania, and we went to this one market where my host grandma told me like go there to just see it because it's a show, because it doesn't happen other places. And they were also like singing. They had like a competition of some sort by singing, and who would get the most attention to their like booth with clothes or whatever they were selling. That was very cool to see.
I really like, looking back at it, I really like growing up with Middle Eastern culture, you know, taking up a lot of space with regards to media, music, and TV. I don't know, it just makes the whole experience so much more unique.
You just told me about that girlfriend of yours that listened to that one music video.
It wasn't a girlfriend, it was my cousin. And I don't know if anybody knows this song. Please let me know, because I've been searching far and wide. There was this Arabic and I think Lebanese singer who made a music video where she was cutting up her clothes. And we, like, my cousin is the same age as me, and I remember she started cutting up her clothes inspired by the music video, and she got in so much trouble. I remember it was the talk of the town. She cut up her clothes, and I still don't remember which song it was. And I've been Googling. I Googled like a Middle Eastern song cutting clothes, and I can't find it.
Maybe you should try in Arabic. I think I got more searches in Arabic.
Yeah.
I wonder what her mom did to her. The
Yeah.
poor girl. I think she got an earful from her.
Oh, she really did. Cutting up new clothes because some artist did it. And I want to say Haifa Wahbi, but I can't find any video of hers where she's cutting clothes.
I'm pretty sure it's one of those jealous music videos. Or like, I hate my husband, he cheated on me. Or looked at another girl. Actually, in the Arabic songs, I think it wasn't as far as cheating. It was just like
it was
him looking at another, you were done.
Yeah, it's always like such a dramatic scene. They're at the dinner table. He's not being attentive to her. He gets up and he looks out the window, and there she is, the beautiful neighbor. And then it's done. She's cutting her clothes. She's cutting her hair. She's kicking him out. How dare you look at another woman?
They're not even together yet.
They're not even together. This is just the first date.
Oh, I can't remember the name of that show. It was a Syrian series. I remember to see. It was about a town by the sea with Ayman Zaidan.
Oh.
I think that's his name. I don't know if you've watched that show. It was a very beautiful. If I find it, I'm gonna send it to you. It was a very aesthetically, and it was also very artsy. It was all like some sort of metaphor. The whole show was like that. And talking about being jealous, it was this beautiful girl that was mute, that always looked out of her window in this apartment, waiting for this captain coming back from his trips abroad with his ship and the people with him. And she would always look at him and she would always love him, but she wouldn't dare to kind of like approach him.
Oh, she can't speak. She's mute.
I think she was mute. At least that's what I remember. And then I think it was Ayman Zaidan, and they also made another drama series, Majnoon Layla, not Majnoon Layla, Layla Ayman. Oh my god, I forgot.
Layla
It was about
Ayman.
this couple where the wife started getting so jealous. I'm gonna find that for you, because
need
for
to
a while
watch
these two actors, they were always husbands and wife, or they were like a couple in everything. But this one was very special. I can't remember, Bab Sot Bahri or something like that. It was called something about that.
Yeah.
It was really a weird show. It wasn't a typical Arabic series. It was all metaphoric. It was all symbols, and it was this beautiful white town. It looked like a Greek city by the beach. It was super beautiful. I can't remember. I think it was something called Sot Bahri or something like that.
I really want to watch that.
Yeah, actually, you know Arabic. And the funny part is, Dunia is not even an Arab. She's a Turkmen. Tell me, Dunia, what is a Turkmen and where is your origins from?
So being Turkmen is the Turkmen from Iraq. There is Turkmen all over the world.
And let me cut this to you. A Turkmen is not a Turkish person.
Exactly.
It's completely different.
Yeah. And it's also different from the Turkmens from Turkmenistan. We have all the Turkic people have the same origin. It's just like how all the Latin is rooted in the same. It's the same population that's just spread out.
And what is a Turkic person, or what does it mean to be Turkic?
It means that you origin from before the Ottoman Empire, before Turkey as a country was established. We have all these people who speaks Turkish.
So it's based on the language. It's not based on the genetics or like where they originally came from.
No, it's based on the language. And I actually, because we're such a small minority and we've been underrepresented for a long time, there's not a lot of history to find. I have a friend, she's very knowledgeable about this, but I don't want to say a lot about my origin without having confirmed what I know, because it's such a it's such a sensitive topic. So I can't say anything that would be wrong. But what I know is that we're from before the Ottoman Empire, or a part of the Ottoman Empire, but before Turkey was established, we went over to Iraq. So we've been there for centuries back. Primarily located to the northern parts of Iraq, so Erbil, Kirkuk, and then there is these small cities, Tuskhurmata, and stuff like that.
And kid you not, their language is very, I feel it's very like Dutch like. Not like it sounds like Dutch, but it's like when you listen to Dutch, because we live in Scandinavia, it sounds like a little bit of every Scandinavian language and a little bit of German, and then you don't understand the rest. And it's like that. And with you, I hear bits of Kurdish, but it's not Kurdish. It's bits of Persian. There is bits of Turkish, and then there's a whole. What does it mean when you are a girlfriend? When I went to visit you the other day, they said something very special, and that was me being your girlfriend.
Yeah, it's specific for girls.
Yeah,
and we say badlach, which I just gotta say, this is something specific to, because we have different dialects as well. So imagine we're a minority in Iraq and we have different dialects among this minority in Iraq. So this is special to those from Erbil. We say badlach, which means sisterhood.
It's a beautiful one.
It's actually a very beautiful word.
It's a very old language. It sounds like it, because like sisterhood is not something because in my Sorani Kurdish accent, we say Rafiq.
Yeah, that sounds Arabic.
That sounds Arabic. You can also use Haval, but nobody does that. That's like more Bahdini and so on. At least I don't hear any of my friends say that. And Rafiq, I think people also know it from, I think, the Jungle Book or something, because they also use Rafiki. So it's actually a very it's not Kurdish at all, I think.
Yes. But other Turkmens, they would say Arkhadash. But Arkhadash is more gender neutral. In Erbil, Badlach is very specific to girls. So a guy and a guy cannot say that they're Badlach, because Badla means sister.
But tell me a little bit, because I am originally Kurdish from Iraq. I was born in Suleymania. My mom was from Kirkuk. My father is Suleymani. My mom grew up with Turkmen friends, and she told me that growing up with them, there was no, she did not feel there was any difference. Like, they were just like, it was like her best friends. They spent a lot of time together. She shared a lot of traditions with them. But I guess back in the days, because people were living for so many centuries together, there wasn't that many differences. But I want to know, what is the difference between my culture and your culture?
I want to say, so you're Kurdish and I'm Turkmen, but we're both from northern part of Iraq. Yeah. So we have a different language, we have a different flag, and we have different national wear. But besides that, I think we're pretty common. I think all of northern Iraq, and even the Jews and the Christians and whoever lives amongst there, we share a lot of common culture, which is why sometimes, and I know this is probably a bit problematic to say, a lot of people will disagree, but I don't find this debate of wanting to differ people and put them in groups in Iraq, which is a big political thing. They want to separate and make northern Iraq Kurdistan, and then it's identified as being a Kurdish only place, or a Kurdish place, and I don't necessarily agree with that, also because of political reasons, because it's not really working out, but also because there's so many people of different cultures living there. Yes. And we've all blended into one culture. Like, we share stuff from each other, we give to one another, and it's been like that for so many years. Since I haven't lived there, but since I can remember, I've heard the stories and my grandfather's and grandmother's stories, and they all lived in unison. And I even remember my mom, when she came to Denmark, she got asked by our neighbor back then, who was an Iraqi woman, and she asked my mom, "Are you Sunni and Shia or Shia?" And my mom said, "I honestly don't know." Because it wasn't a thing over there. Everybody just lived together. Yeah.
My mom also said that because I was a little bit shocked, because you guys have your own language, but you also speak fully fluently Turkish. You also know Arabic, but you also speak my accent in Kurdish. And I wonder if you also know a little bit of Kurmanji, the other big accent in Kurdish, because I am actually deeply shocked. I thought I knew a lot of languages, because I know Kurdish and Arabic, besides, knowing all the other different languages everybody else can, like English and our Scandinavian one. But I honestly think that you guys know a whole lot more.
We're chameleons. It's because we were underrepresented. We've been on the grounds of northern Iraq for many, many years before, Turkey was even established as a country. Yet, when it came to identification, we weren't allowed to put down that we were Turkmen. So we had to choose, are you Arabic or are you Kurdish? There's no in between. And besides that, we did not have our schools. They do have now, I think, in Kirkuk. I still don't think they have them in Erbil. I'm not too sure. But so then my mother, she went to an Arabic school in Erbil, and my dad, he went to a Kurdish school in Erbil. So we learned all the languages, and it was also a way for us to survive and blend in. But that's with every country. Like, we know Danish because we live in Denmark. And if you go back in time, like when my grandfather lived in Erbil, and a lot of Turkmens, they are in Qal'a in Erbil. You know the castle?
I know. It's the big castle. I was there, and I didn't know that that's where you guys originally lived. That's beautiful.
That's the origin of the Turkmens. We used to live up in Qal'a, and my dad's house was up in Qal'a. So that's where they lived. And so when you speak with a heavy Erbil accent, which I do, they used to call me, all of my dad's friends, even the Kurdish ones, they'd be like, you're Qal'ale. So you're from Qal'a.
Because I was wondering, where do you guys meet up in Kurdistan? Like, I mean, like, where is your... Like, do you guys have your own community where you meet up in different places, like beside the mosque and everything?
Yeah.
But because it's the same, basically most of them are, like, you guys are Muslims, right? In the end, so like that is not like your special place.
Exactly.
But do they have like communities, or like, because you say they go to our schools, so where do they go to make sure that the culture is maintained?
There is not many options. It used to be that we were from Qal'a. That's where we were when we came to Iraq. We were there, and all the land was ours up there in the castle. By the way, look it up. It's very, very beautiful.
Yes, I was like looking at it because I remember they call it the Citadel.
Yeah,
I actually was there a few years ago.
It's
It was
so
maybe
beautiful.
in 16, I think we were there, because my best friend Shay, which you also know, she is from, originally she is from actually Rwanda's, but I guess she grew up in Erbil with her parents. Actually no, she was born in Sweden, but her parents
complicated
were in
story,
Erbil.
guys.
Actually, now I'm confused, but you see how many trails the Kurds have. And she showed us around the citadel. If you guys look up Erbil on the map, as she told me, it's super interesting. The citadel is at the center of the city.
It is.
And then there are roads around the citadel. And the road starts by like 20 kilometers an hour. That's the first circle around the citadel. Then the cars can drive on the second circle, which is 40. And then it goes to 50, and it goes to 60s. And the roads for the cars are also called the 20 road, the 40 road, the 60 road. It's actually super interesting. And they say, or they told me, that the reason this is like the city is built around, so it's circular in shape, is because the citadel was the first place of like civilization in that area, and people used to live like back in the days in these citadels. And then when more people moved into the area, it got expanded, but it actually expanded like in a circular way
around that.
And
that brings me back to my point. So my family grew up there, and if you go back in time, all the elder people, they all spoke Turkmen, because then back then that was the way to survive. That was the most spoken language. But with time and with registration, so there is no count on how many people we actually are, because we couldn't register. Which also, if you think about it, messes up the count for other people as well, because then you have people counted in as Arabic, but they're not Arabic, and people counted in as Kurdish, and they're not Kurdish.
This is actually very interesting. It seems...
And there has been a lot of controversy surrounding the citadel. A lot of people want to claim it as theirs. And I remember my dad said, because remember, my dad and his whole heritage have lived there. And he went back to Erbil not so long ago, and he said that they have a history museum kind of thing there with history that is not true. And I got very confused, and I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, it's a museum. But he was like, but I lived here. This was our house.
This is interesting. Well, it's super complicated. When you read about it, they say they're not sure of the origins of it. They wonder that it dates back to the 5th millennium before Christ. So it's like super old.
Yeah, but which my grandparents have also told me about. Before there were Turkmens, there were also the Jews, and there were the Christians, and then
there's also the Neo-Assyrians that used to, because it seems like the Neo-Assyrians put it into these Ebla tablets as a recording.
Yeah.
But that was the first recording, so they are not sure like how long ago it actually was made. And the Neo-Assyrians put it in their tablets, the iPads. I'm joking. They put it out 2,300 years before Christ. But that was just the first time it was recorded.
Yeah.
But when I was there, they told me that they think, according to the research, that it's around 4,000 years old. And I actually did touch the stones.
Oh.
I was like, I'm going to fucking leave some traces here. But it seems like it's very weird, because it's like, I was around there. So 55 Celsius degrees that summer. We went to the middle heat of the day. That was the hottest thing I've ever, I melted like chocolate.
What do you call that part of the day? We call it shakla. No, shakla. Do you also call it that?
No, shakla is like, that sounds like shaklawa. That area outside there. Maybe it is some old Turkmen
we call it
area. That's why they call it shaklawa, because I thought it was such a weird name. But it fitted so well.
Shaklawa.
But it's very beautiful.
I
I wanna also like this, back to the Citadel. How is it possible that building, the small houses, the details, there were even balconies there, that they're still standing so well? Gotta give it to them. Whoever was an architect back in the day, or a handyman in this, literally did something amazing with the stones. And actually you can go to these special shops inside where you can like buy special like stones that are like almost like diamonds. It's not diamonds, it's some sort of like, what do you call them? Not sapphires, it's something around close to those. And there is like there's stuff that is there. I didn't make it throughout the whole thing, because it's always open for short amount of times, because of I think they have regulation how many people that can be there and for how long, because it's so old. But it's actually crazy. It feels like time never passed there.
I don't think I've ever been, actually.
I have to take you over there with me, because it was like the Citadel was very spiritual experience, because I was like, oh my God, my people used to live inside of this. So few of them. And then you go a little bit out of the city. So when I went back in 2016 with my friends, I got to see like almost everything that I've never seen before. And they took me to Shaklawa that we talked about. That's place is also like, it does not look real.
I love Shaklawa.
Stone put, like there was like these beautiful stones on the path over there. It's like mountains around. It's like this little secret place.
Yeah,
it's super magical. But there are more places that I think are like so beautiful, and I was like, okay, I didn't know this, because the few times I had visited in the past, I used to go to visit my like relatives.
Yeah, and they're in Slemania.
Yeah, and actually around Slemania there is also a lot of places you can go which are beautiful, and I didn't know.
The mountains there are incredible.
And it's funny, I found out that there is like surrounded by I think 7 or something mountains, and it's the same thing as the city I lived close to in Norway. It was also like surrounded by these 7 mountains. It was like such a weird thing.
Yeah.
But I honestly think that there was like the fact that when you go back to visit your relatives, you end up sitting in their hallway or like in their living room and eating from dawn till I don't know what.
It really is from day to night.
And you don't get to see anything. I know they have a lot of stories to tell, and oh boy,
a lot of catching up.
Exactly. If you think we talk a lot, that is a different level of talking. I have never seen a culture that is so talkative as the Middle Eastern one.
I love it though.
Gotta talk to the Spanish people more to know how much they talk.
Yeah, we couldn't talk to a plant if we were supposed to. If like we can talk to anything for as long time as we want. But I really want to go back. I get emotional when you talk about Shaklawa.
Yeah,
and
you do.
Yeah. I haven't been for many, many years. I've been twice in my life.
But this is interesting. You weren't even born there.
Yeah.
How did you feel the first time you went back with your parents? Or how old were you?
I was very small. I was 3 or 4 when I went the first time.
Mm.
But I remember, I don't remember much, but I remember I was very happy. And my family, they are funny people. They're so funny. Like, it's a comedy show. It's the competition for who can make other people laugh the most. And I sometimes look at the old video recordings that we have from it, but I will show you some actually if you come by one day. And we're just like, everybody's invited over to my oldest aunt's house because when I say Erbil, I talk exclusively about my father's family, because my mom's family, they all, well, her core family, so her parents and siblings, they all live in Australia. So when we go back to Iraq, it's primarily for my dad's family. And we're all gathered in my aunt's house. And it's the same house that she still lives in. So it's always very nostalgic when you see pictures or if you go there, because you've been there for like as long as you can remember. And we all sat in the living room together. And my cousins, they would like put on shows. Like, they would start singing. And nobody's taking anything serious. Everybody's laughing, dancing, telling jokes. And it was just a very good time. And speaking of Shaklawa, I've been there twice, but every time we go to Shaklawa. And my family is big, so we always rent a bus. And we just sit in this bus together, singing, talking, joking, and then drive off to Shaklawa. And the bus driver sits with us, and we give him kebab, and we barbecue. And it's just a good time.
But when was the second time you went then?
The second time was not right before. Yeah, it was like a year before I started high school. So I was in between 8th and 9th grade.
Okay, so you were much more grown up.
You
were more aware then of your surrounding. Yeah. Did you feel special about that? Did you, like, when you reached the motherland, did you feel
I felt
different?
Heat stroke. It was the first time. It was in the middle of summer. Yeah. And I just remember we were flying over and it was so yellow and so brown because of the heat. There's no plants
and
left.
And the sandstorms coming from I think it comes from the Khalij.
It's true, there are sandstorms. And I remember I was like, oh my God, where am I? And remember, I am in between 8th and 9th grade, so I'm peaking at being an annoying teenager. So maybe not the best year to go back to your home country where everything already annoys you. So I get off the plane and it's like this heat just hits my face. And in movies when they have those Sahara scenes and the wind is like, there's no wind, but like you look out and it's a bit wavy. It felt like that in real life. And I was like, I can't breathe, guys.
Where's the split? A split. I need the
What is the split? A split. And I remember we slept in my aunt's house, and she has like this they have so many rooms for such some reason. Like, they have these big houses, all of them.
And a big house.
Yeah, and you would wash
yard
it
outside,
with that little broom.
And with what is it called? That long dress they wear, dishdasha, which they put inside their underwear, which is, I don't know what that, like, I can't tell you how that looks like. You just have to see it for yourself. It's like so practical. But why are you wearing a dishdasha then when you need to put it on your underwear? Why don't you just wear shorts? Because either way, you're lifting your dishdasha all the way up inside your underwear on the sides, so you're like walking around in a mini skirt.
Yeah, but you know what? I have dishdashas. I slip in dishdashas sometimes, and I also put them up in my underwear.
But there's nothing else you can wear down there that will make it airy enough. Sometimes I would be like, is the espalette working properly? Make something with this. Sometimes it feels like there's a person inside there that's doing like
and then the electricity would cut all of the sudden.
And they have this generator or whatever it's called.
And you're sitting there and you're sitting there in the dark all of the sudden, and you were watching TV, and you just have to, deal with the fact that you now missed a few minutes of the show.
Did you used to sleep at the serban?
What is
in the roof? At the roof. I don't know what you call it.
We call it dam. Dam.
This is where we separate paths.
Yeah.
But
so I actually did not, because they were like, you can't handle this. But I remember, the dam, and I remember walking up, and there's like the separate stairs to go up there, and I remember my cousin hanging clothes.
And
That's
all roofs are square up there.
Yeah,
like, so it's like
exactly. It's like
the top of a building.
Have you heard all of those love stories happening from people standing on the roof and looking into the neighbor's house, and they made eye contact, and it was the scandal of the town. She was looking when she was hanging clothes.
That is true. Like, this is how the Middle East works, guys. Actually, I have to say, the first time I went back after leaving was when I was 15. And I started actually crying when the plane started, like, going down.
Happy tears or bad tears?
I don't know what that was. I just started crying like crazy. Like, I was like, tears were running out, and I was like so emotionally like disturbed, and that like I was not sad, I was not happy, I was just like in shock. And my mom was like, I think this is your body subconsciously realizing you're home. She's like, it's completely normal. I also did that after I haven't been home for a long time. They used to go back like without me, and I didn't go with them, and then that was the first time I went down with them, and that was a very weird experience. But I have to say, since then, the best experiences I had was with my friends, because when we used to go down, because we wouldn't just spend time visiting, we also spent time getting to know the country. Well, actually, Shay has had like so big luck, because she went back there all that time. So she knew everywhere. It was so nice to have someone to show you around and tell you, like, let me take you to some really special places. Like, I was lucky with that. And also my cousin, I have one cousin that is my age. Shout out to Lavin, and she showed me also around to like these amazing places.
I love that.
Yeah, I will take you.
There are a few places I want to see before I die. I have a list. Actually, there are two places. I want to go and see Qal'a.
Yeah.
And I want to see my grandfather's grave, which is also in Erbil.
That is so cute.
I haven't seen it.
I actually went. I did this good thing. I didn't understand the meaning completely, because I didn't know them that well, but I used to go to my grandpa on my dad's side, to his grave every time I went there to pay respects. And also my grandpa on my dad's side also died, and his wife as well, my grandma. So since then I've also actually gone to see their graves, because I remember bits and parts of them before I left.
I never met my grandfather. He died when my father was 17.
Okay.
But he has been such a big figure in our family. He was a very famous singer back in Erbil. So if you meet anyone that is like an older man, they will know him. His name was, I'm not going to say his name. For security reasons, you cannot know who my grandfather is yet.
But he was Habab. We'll call him Habab.
He was very loved by a lot of people. And I remember, like, whenever we go down there, we name drop him sometimes, and people are like, oh my God, you're his granddaughter. And then, you get special treatment.
It's Tupac.
It's Tupac. But also, my grandfather is Tupac, guys. But also, he was known for being a kind person. And he was known for, everybody loving him. And I remember, because I still talk with my dad about his father. And even though he lost his father at 17, it's like the hurt never heals. So we have conversations about him as a person, like my grandfather, which is why I feel so deeply connected to him, even though I never met him. And he told me the story of the day that he died. And my father actually was there and saw him. And he was woken up. My father and his older brother were woken up by their mother, who was like, hurry, your dad is not responding. Something is wrong. He's in bed, not responding. And my father describes how he carried him out to the street so that the ambulance could come and get him. And he says, and everything goes so fast over there, like with the burying process.
Yeah.
You don't put them in a hospital in the freezer like we do here, and you do like the doctor checks and all of that. You didn't do that back then. So the whole process was super quick. Like within hours, they are buried underground. And he says how like they're carrying the coffin, and walking the street. And of course, word travels, but not that fast. And he was like, people were asking, who is this? Who is this? And then they would say my grandfather's name, and they shut down all the stores. And my father was like, 1 second, it was just us carrying his casket. And the other second, he looks back, and the whole city is there. So he was a very loved man.
I wonder if that is because the community is so small, and back in the day, it meant a lot to be a part of the community.
It did.
So it's like, oh, he was your grandfather, or like he was your father, but he's my father as well.
Exactly.
But like that feeling of like, because people know each other by the first name still till this day.
Yeah. But he was also a man of high status. I remember my dad would tell these stories of how he would get everybody out of trouble because everybody up higher
like
up
Bab al-Hara.
yes, everybody higher up would know him. Like imagine back in the days, my grandfather, he had been to London.
Oh wow.
And you couldn't even, like, right now people from Iraq can go to London. Imagine back then he went to London, and he would go, like he would be invited to other countries. He was a man of very high status and still very kind and humble, which is why people loved him.
That is
and
so cute.
And the reason I also feel connected to him is I try to live like him. I feel so inspired by the person he was. And although I never met him, I don't know, I just feel so much love for this man. And I've never seen his grave. And I think I will break down crying even though I've never met him.
But it's also, I have to say, it's something very special visiting this grave. I did that with my aunts and uncles, and it's very I can't explain that, and it's weird because we don't know them. Like on my father's side, I didn't know him. I didn't know Abdurrahman, but somehow I feel like they're watching out for us, or like they're still like
they're
giving
present.
us their blessings.
Yeah.
And I remember about this when you talk about death. My grandma, on my mom's side, I met her shortly before she died, and that was after we moved to Norway. When she died, I heard that they had this funeral for 7 days with the doors to the house open. And I asked my mom, and I was like, was your mom someone very popular? Because she was a super quiet lady. I have like bits and pieces of memories about her. She always had her black abaya and would go out, and she was a super quiet woman. She barely talked. My whole few years of life, she never talked. She never said anything. She took me out sometimes with her, and I'm such an ADHD extroverted person. She didn't talk. I don't know what she was like, how she was so known that people would come for 7 fully days. And they were like, no, we know her. And they would come from different cities. They would come from different places. That was very, very crazy.
But that also says a lot about our community and the values that I really love from our community. And that is, you stick together.
That's
you
true.
are there for each other. Like, imagine right now, if I'm not saying that if somebody dies, they wouldn't come to your funeral, but I'm just saying I can imagine people would skip out and be like, I have work. Like, I can imagine that. Because I've done it sometimes too, not because, God forbid, not because someone close to me has passed, but let's say it's someone's relative.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go, but you would do that back then because you're there to support that friend who lost a relative. Even though it's just someone you knew from middle school or someone you knew from work, you were there and you show them that there's a community behind them. And we don't do that here as much.
No, we don't. It's much more programmed, and it's much more like something that has to fit in the schedule somehow. I don't know why. It's more practical here. It's not so emotional. But I don't know. I'm pretty sure there are negative and positive sides. We all heard about this. When people go to funerals, they make a show.
Oh, yeah.
They scream. And like I heard once a priest, I think it was NBC or something like that.
A priest or an imam?
Imam. And he was like, guys, stop screaming. Let the spirit move on in peace. When you're screaming so much, that fucking spirit is not able. I'm gonna take back fucking. I was like, a poor spirit is not able to move on. Let it leave the body in peace.
But did you also know that this is going to be very special for anyone who is not a part of our culture to hear, but they actually sometimes hire people to make a show.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They
This
hire,
is a shock to me.
yeah, that was like a job. Like there were some women that you would hire to come and cry at the funeral, like do the hysterical crying. I don't know what the purpose of that would be, but there were people who had that job.
Interesting.
And they would like sit in
It's
circles.
like at the club to set the mood.
It's like a promoter.
I don't know, like to set the mood. Yeah, guys,
Yeah.
things are
I
not
think
going
maybe-
so as we wanted it to be. So
Yeah.
come on.
I think maybe it is to set the mood.
My God, that's kind of. But you know what? I also know. So I remember when my grandpa died. They told me that they put a piece of sugar, like a sugar cube, which they put on his like lips. They like stroke his lips with this, and they were like, so that he can have a sweet parting.
Oh.
That is actually very interesting. I don't know if that is something in the Kurdish culture. I'm pretty sure it's something from their old nature religion. It does not sound something like Islam has or anything.
Yeah, I haven't heard that before, but it's cute.
I've never heard that too, but they were like, oh, you just stroke a sugar cube, the ones you put in the tea, those square ones, on their lips, and that is just like before they take their last breaths. So it's like in that transition.
Yeah, so but that's very cute, especially if it's in their last breath that they have a sweet taste in their mouth.
Yeah, isn't that really?
And also it's like a bit of serotonin hitting you
actually
because you're having sugar.
Yeah. I wonder. Yeah,
That's actually very cute and very thoughtful, I must say.
yeah. I thought that was like, wow, this is
Yeah.
interesting. But I mean, yeah, the culture can be like dramatic in many ways, but
Yeah.
also very warm. But we also know that like nothing is perfect. So I guess like in a lot of warm cultures, people are also too much into each other's business
Yeah.
for good purposes. But like I remember, this is so funny. I'm laughing because I can remember my grandma's voice. It's my grandma on my dad's side. She told me like they had this neighbor. What do you call these, like noisy? Is that what nosy? Is that noisy or nosy? Nosy neighbor where
That will be all up in your business all the time.
exactly that was so into everyone's business that she would get out in the middle of the night to jump into this and that house if she knew something was going on that she wanted to be a part of. And that time when my mom was gonna give birth, she literally woke up in the middle of the night because
I love the dedication.
somehow I don't even know how she heard that my mom was about to give birth and was gonna go to the hospital. She woke up in the middle of the night. It was so dark that she stepped on some plates, some glasses, and broke stuff in her kitchen and in the living room. Her husband heard her. He got super mad at her, started screaming at her. I was like, are you out of your fucking mind? She still went on,
bolted
came
away
into the house across and was like, how can I help? What can I do? What is going on? How are you guys? And my grandma was like, woman, leave. Like, we don't have enough, we don't have energy for you or mind space for you. We're in the middle of like getting a taxi to go to the hospital. Like, stop it. And she was like, I want to be part of this.
I love that for her. She
And my
must be
grandma
bored.
was like, what? Yes. What the fuck is going on? Like, and she was like that with everyone.
But
Whatever it was, she wanted to be in. I don't know if she had FOMO.
I think she did severe FOMO. And I think she was bored.
Oh, she was, yeah.
But that reminds me of, it's funny because you would think these things would leave us behind in wherever we come from. But I grew up in the ghetto with a lot of Middle Eastern people and a lot of police trouble. And I remember if someone dared to fight, like even like just a couple yelling a bit at each other in the yard, everybody was out on their balcony. And it was like an activity. I remember we would go out to our balcony and our neighbors, like our balconies were very close. We would come out and they were already there and we were like, what happened? Tell us the details. And they're like, that guy over there said this about this girl and now they're fighting. And I remember even like in our kitchen, we had like a window and then there was someone fighting because that wasn't in the yard, that was on the street. And there was these two girls fighting, like pulling each other's hair. It was really ratchet. And my dad goes out to look and the neighbor's husband is also out there looking. And he's like, neighbor in Arabic, ya jar, ya jar, shayar. And then they would like bond over it. And I even remember sometimes they would hand each other snacks over the balcony and talk about what's happening.
I was gonna say that. Who is gonna bring out the popcorn?
They all had their tea.
That is
And
so
my
funny.
mom and his wife, they would wear the prayer headscarf because they have to grab something quick to go out to the balcony, and they wear hijabs.
Yeah.
And they would grab the prayer headscarves, you know, the big ones, the bulky ones that you just put on your head. And they would like run out, and everybody would look, and all the neighbors were out. It was so fun. I miss that sometimes.
It's a show, and people are ready for it.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because like if that happened to them, like, you know, the thing of shame, the topic of shame in the Middle Eastern culture is very, very huge.
Yeah.
Although we are like laughing at it, and I love the shows that's going on, but to be honest, there are also times where the family would be so scared of other people's opinion about them
Yeah.
that would make you sit in some sort of like a social prison,
Of
because
course.
your children's actions will reflect on you, which will reflect on the community's, you know, standards and values. And although people did leave their cultures behind and their countries behind, they did not leave their mindset behind.
No.
So when they came, they still brought all these. I live with 4 churches around. This is like what you hear. But so even when they moved here, that mindset that did not leave that generation, and because there were so many of them in the same ghetto, it kept on flourishing.
Of
and
course.
maybe it got worse and more like, how do you say, like strong, because there were so few of them, so they were actually fighting to keep this
Yeah.
alive.
No, I completely agree with that. I also think that's why, because now we moved to an area where there aren't that many ethnic minorities.
Yeah.
There are, but it's like the different kinds. It's not like family. Because I remember back where I used to live, most of them were cousins. They knew each other from back home, so it's
That's
even more
true.
difficult to break through of. It was
That's
like 5, 6 big families, where it was like 4 siblings, all with their own husband or wife and children. But here, everybody's like minding their own business. So whenever something happens, my family's still like, oh, let's go look. Not because we have anything towards these people. It's just you love the drama, you love the action.
There's no malicious intent. It's all
It's fun.
about entertainment.
Exactly.
Guys. NBC is still live in the
reporting-
courtyard.
Reporting live from Al Jazeera.
Al Jazeera.
It's, you know, if there's a police car, we automatically want to know, why are you here? If there's an ambulance, who is sick? What is happening? And our neighbors do not care.
But at the same time, it's so beautiful with such ghettos, like you say, that the neighbors come and give each other food when it's Eid and so on, like
yeah.
that. That is nice traditions that
And
is hard to keep. So cheers to that.
And when something bad happens, it really is a community that stick together. Like
that's good.
If, let's say, I was always sure that if, God forbid, if an ambulance ever came to my home and something had happened with my parents, all of my neighbors, I can vouch for them. They would be ready to help us, even
That
if we
is
didn't
so
speak on the
nice.
daily.
That
'Cause-
is
and-
beautiful.
Yeah, and we've done it too for our neighbors. That's just what you do. You just help each other out. Like if there is a neighbor, even in the other yard, because it was like different yards.
Yeah.
Even in the other yard, if there was someone who had a parent pass away, you best believe everybody would send food. Everybody would take care of the children. Everybody would be there for them and for the, you know, the one left behind with the kids.
That is beautiful. It's like a community, isn't it?
Very
It's like
much.
this hippie community where everybody is sharing kind of
Yeah.
like the responsibility of them.
Yeah.
But I think there is so many good. Oh my God, my church is not gonna stop. Actually, this church sometimes it goes on, and I don't know, these bells, they can go for minutes long.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Okay. But I guess like this is a sign actually for
Yeah.
us to leave. I think.
I think so too.
Yeah.
It's
so
a sign to stop.
It's a heavenly sign.
It's
You
God
guys have
calling.
talked too much today, so save
Yeah.
your saliva for the next time. For the next time, we're gonna give you some more insight into actually some shows that both me
Yeah.
and Dunya have watched back in the days. I'm gonna fucking save it all from Bab al-Hara to Tijah al-Mu'akas
To Kalam
to Kalam
Noam.
Noam. We're gonna bring you everything out. But yeah, for now, we can
But
end
now,
this.
God is calling. We
Yeah.
gotta go.
We gotta go.